Hello, and thank you for your interest in the HousingWorks infrastructure program through the fiscal year 26 round of the Community One Stop for Growth. For a quick overview of the HousingWorks infrastructure program, this is a relatively new program of the Healy-Driscoll administration, really intended to support efforts to increase housing production across the state. So this program will fund activities related to infrastructure projects associated with imminent housing development. For program staff contacts, my information is there, Mackenzie Bell, Senior Community Grants Coordinator, as well as my colleague Victoria Healy. Our contact information is also listed on the HousingWorks webpage if you need any questions answered. Who is eligible for HWIP or HousingWorks? All municipalities, as well as related municipal entities such as public housing authorities, redevelopment authorities, and water, sewer, or service districts, are eligible to submit full applications. And of course, HousingWorks is administered through the Community One Stop for Growth, a single application portal. What's new this year? We do have a big new component, which is that horizontal infrastructure work can be done on both public and or private land this year. That is now eligible for HousingWorks funding due to updated language in the Affordable Homes Act. Note that non-compliant MBTA communities will be ineligible for HousingWorks funding, and applicants with any adopted housing moratoria or other restrictive bylaws that do not allow for at least a 5% increase in housing growth over a single year are also ineligible. You can contact us individually with any questions on these eligibility parameters, but please see our published guidelines for all of this information and more details. As part of our commitment to regional and geographic diversity with our awards, note that we will be setting aside up to 10% of funding each for rural and small towns, gateway cities, and seasonal communities. HousingWorks within the development continuum for One Stop squarely fits under infrastructure, specifically infrastructure to support residential growth. So that means when completing a full application in Section 2, selecting infrastructure and infrastructure to support housing growth likely means that that application will be reviewed and considered by HousingWorks. You can visit the One Stop website for more information and guidance around submitting a full application. So as mentioned, all of these details and more can be found in our guidelines, but we want to point you to a few highlights of those guidelines. Note that we don't have a set minimum or maximum amount for a grant request. We give an idea of past awards, so past projects that have focused on pre-construction only have ranged from 100 to 500,000. Past construction or implementation projects have ranged from 1 million to 5 million. And note, as you'll see in our scoring rubric in our guidelines, that projects that have secured funding from other sources, including local matches, will be more competitive. HousingWorks is a 4 fiscal year grant, meaning that with awards being made in the fall of 2025, projects must be completed by June 30th, 2029. HousingWorks will fund a variety of activities for infrastructure projects associated with imminent housing development. This can include design, construction, repair, and other improvements to a variety of horizontal infrastructure. Ineligible activities, so these funds cannot be used to reimburse staff time or training, nor can it be used to fund any vertical construction. So how to be competitive? If you have submitted a past application to HousingWorks, you know that this can be a particularly competitive program. Again, I point you to our guidelines to really look at our scoring rubric. Consider how can you maximize all possible points with your application. And while the score is incredibly important, award recommendations also consider regional diversity, environmental resiliency, previous support for a project from EOHLC, whether that applicant would be a first-time recipient of one of our grants, and generally aligning with EOHLC priorities. Competitive applications in the past, those that have scored really well, do an excellent job of explaining how this project addresses a need specific to that community. It really demonstrates how the project will leverage and or support housing growth with a clearly detailed scope of work, indicating exactly what these grant funds would be funding, would be used for, and that it can be achieved within that 4 fiscal year grant timeline. Competitive applications have also included a lot of evidence of progress to date, what has informed or what has led up to the project thus far, and showcase experienced leadership that convincingly shows that this project can be executed. Competitive applications also include feasible and defensible costs, showcasing that the grant request is justifiable and legitimate. So looking at timeline, we are in that guidance phase right now. The full application is open and expression of interest. Um, those submissions can be sent in for general feedback on which program or programs may consider a project. You can find more information with webinars like this one, general community one-stop webinars, and look out for office hours where you can get questions answered in real time from program staff. Full applications can start to be submitted in May, and pay attention to that final submission deadline of 11:59 p.m. on June 4th. All grant programs will be reviewing applications between July and September, and we anticipate notifying um, applicants of grant decisions and announcing awards around October. So again, thank you for your interest in the HousingWorks infrastructure program. Please visit the Community One Stop for Growth webpage and the HousingWorks webpage for any and all details needed to provide you guidance ahead of this fiscal year 26 round.